serious. What's so funny? Y'all over there, y'all really getting a laugh.
trying to convince them that they could be better for the economy. Trump has been trying to woo those voters. Remember, inflation's more than 20% in that state. With black men, Harris is at 73%, Trump at 25%. Let me give you perspective and context on that. Joe Biden in 2020 had this number at about 87%, okay? So right now, she's running about 13 points with black men behind where Joe Biden was in 2020. All right, another data point there, Brett, because I know you asked. Black women as well in Georgia. We had been watching this. Here it is. Strong showing, 89%, but let me give you the perspective on that. Joe Biden, with black women in Georgia 4 years ago, was at 95% of their support. She is also running behind with them by about 6 points. I'll leave you off with one other data point here. Again, this is the first time we are able to show you this. Education and race. Whites with no college degree in Georgia. Donald Trump, a strong showing there. He's at 77, getting 77% of their support. So we have a lot more data coming in, and we will continue to bring that to you. Brett, Martha?
Those are really interesting numbers. They
Absolutely.
tell a story. They start to.
Yeah, so let's bring in our panel and see what they think about these numbers. Britt Hume, Dana Perino, Harold Ford Jr., Karl Rove, Laura Ingraham, and Robert Wolf. Laura, welcome. Great to have you here. She's underperforming Biden is the headline there.
Yeah, it looks like right now Harris isn't getting enough from women, at least in Georgia, that she would need to overcome what Trump is getting from men, both increase in support from black men and men overall. This is going to be the question throughout the night, because the Trump people and all their surrogate groups have tried to really mobilize men. We talked about this afternoon, Martha. I mean, from Joe Rogan to Elon Musk and all the other people down the line, they are trying to turn out that male vote. I would keep an eye on Virginia, and Karl knows this better than everyone else, but in 2020 in Virginia, Trump lost by 9.2, and in 2016 he lost by 4.9. Watch what happens in Virginia. Youngkin has been phenomenal on the ground for Trump. And even if that lead is cut by half, let's say it's 4 points, that could be a bellwether of something to come. Also in New Hampshire, where I spent 4 long winters.
Yes.
See what happens in New Hampshire. It was very tight in 2016.
Robert, welcome to you as well. You know, the state of Georgia, Biden flipped Georgia for the first time since 1992, largely because of the black electorate. Looking at those numbers right now, it doesn't seem like she's delivering that same kind of power.
Yeah, those numbers seem soft, although I would tell you I was predicting North Carolina over Georgia for the vice president, because I think Stein will be like plus 15 versus Robinson. And the governors, and I think that may help the vice president. But these are soft numbers, and I thought with Warnock and Ossoff, 2 senators that are popular, we would have maybe seen, you know, a better turnout. So I'm hoping this is just the early voting.
Yeah, not all the data obviously is in yet. Karl, what's your read on it?
Well, first of all, we're looking at half of the problem. The problem is that we're looking at is what's the division of the black vote by men and women, Trump versus Harris. The other thing we need to look at is turnout. A 1% decline in black turnout in Georgia over the last election would wipe out the 10,000 vote margin that Joe Biden had. So we're seeing part of the picture. Let's see if it's compensated or offset a little bit by how much the black turnout is. Is it bigger than last time or smaller than last time? I'd make one other point. The other part of the Georgia equation that we're going to have to watch, we have a little bit of evidence from, and I mean a little bit of evidence from Indiana that we ought to be worried about, if the Trump campaign ought to be worried about, and that is the suburban support. Hamilton County went Republican 4 years ago. Trump won up 52 to 45. Tonight, with about 2/3 of the vote in, he's losing it to Kamala Harris, 50 to 44, or excuse me, 50 to 48. So he's running behind his performance. If that happens in
Indiana.
In Georgia, with these suburban counties like Forsyth and Cherokee, Gwinnett, which was won by Biden, but it has a huge number of, biggest number of Republican voters in the state are in Gwinnett. If you remember, Hamilton County, 34% of the Republican primary voters in May voted for Nikki Haley when she had no chance of winning. We're seeing that effect tonight with the county being blue, at least at this point.
Harold, it's just worth pointing out that the Fox News voter analysis is this rolling poll over several days. is 120,000 voters asked a series of questions. When we look at that data that Sandra talked about, with the raw vote total coming in, we have a sense of how accurate or not accurate it is. So far, it's lining up. Your thoughts where you are?
So I think Carl's point is right. I think one of the things I would love to see in Georgia is not just racial breakdown, but just breakdown of women versus men. Because if indeed he's underperforming the suburban areas in Indiana, you could extrapolate perhaps that happens in Georgia. But I would agree, if these numbers hold up, if he's polling, he being President Trump, 25% amongst black men, that's a challenge. If you see that in the other big cities in the blue states, Detroit and Philadelphia, that could be an issue as you think about the tightness of this race. But this campaign, the Harris campaign, has always said that it's women. They're going to be the key here. I agree with Robert. I think the North Carolina piece, the Stein-Robinson race, that gubernatorial race will have an advantage for Harris. But this is early. She's still ahead in Georgia. And I think once we get some more of these numbers in, once you get to 10, 15, 20%, I think we'll have a little bit better sense of whether or not this 25% African-American male thing is as serious as it seems.
And when we have on the screen, you know, you have the numbers, and then you look at the percent of precincts in. Right now it's at 3%. So as you look at the screen, that's what you'll be seeing throughout the night.
I mean, one of the things that the Harris campaign, which Harold just touched on, Dana, is that they're hoping that they're going to make it up with some moderate GOP voters that will be persuaded over to the Harris camp. What's the feel for that at this stage of the game?
I would be skeptical that there is a lot of that kind of vote out there. So Governor Kemp had some problems with President Trump for a while, but they patched those things up. And I believe that as Youngkin has been very good for President Trump in Virginia, that Kemp has an amazing operation there in Georgia, and he has been tireless out there for him. And I also think that we should thank Georgia for doing what it needed to do in order to help get us these results in as quickly as possible, to have integrity in the vote, for people to have confidence that the system worked for them, that they could get through those lines quickly, and that the rules are the rules. And that, I think, will help people feel confident about the results.
Britt, the economy is the #1 issue in Georgia, by far.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere, but pretty much leads the way. In our Fox News voter analysis, they break Trump's way significantly on the issue of the economy.
Right, that's important. And the other thing we have to keep an eye on throughout the night, it seems to me, are what, to use a piece of newly minted jargon we have, is just the low propensity voters.
You hate that word.
I think it's awful jargon, but I can't think of a quickly better way to say it. But
people who don't vote very often.
The Trump campaign has really set a great deal of store by the fact that they believe that they have reached these people and will turn them out in significant numbers.
But explain who they are. They're people who didn't vote in 2020, or maybe even didn't vote in 2016
maybe
and 2020.
never voted. And you know, they're the kind of people they think are largely for Trump, if you asked them, right? And that if they can turn them out, they think they could be the decisive factor in this election. We don't know enough now, I don't think, to assess how that's going, but that's something to keep an eye on.
We might have an indication of it if you look at some of these Georgia rural counties. I've been watching Bill work on his wall. If you take a look at some of these rural counties, small counties, there are 150 or 180, 159 counties in Georgia, you'll see that Trump is getting a bigger number of votes in these smaller counties and a bigger percentage. This is, again, goes back to the episodic or low propensity voter.
All right, we're going to dig into these numbers, and we'll head back to Bill momentarily. Election night just getting started.
Some of the first polls are about to close in hotly contested state of North Carolina, so we're going to have some data there to show you coming up right after this break as our special coverage continues.
Starting at 5 a.m., Lawrence, Steve, Ainsley, and Brian bring us all the latest after Election Day on a special Fox and Friends tomorrow.
The votes are in. The next president of the United States is